Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
It's my pleasure.
Interactive intelligence is in the business of IP and unified communications. Tell us a little bit more about the products and services that interactive intelligence has pioneered.
Look, I think for us, and if you look at our website, you'll see a lot of information about what we claim first to market. And I think one of the key areas we started is the fact that from day one, the strategy was to develop our solution suite on software-based applications, and typically open standards-based applications. So pretty much we were the first to market with an all-in-one IPPBX, ACD, IVR, and presence management capability within that solution. As time went on, we converted and expanded on a technology set, and we eventually moved into full-blown multimedia call center suite, all software-based, SIP-based. We then developed our predictive dialer on a SIP-based platform, one of the first in the world to be a SIP-based platform. And we continually expanded that kind of technology. So today, we were one of the first companies to be fully integrated with synchronized presence management capability with Microsoft's OCS and even Microsoft Link. And I guess our latest first to market was we are truly in the space of communications-enabled business processes. So we literally can take any media interaction or communication interaction into our contact center environment and kick off various business processes, business flows in the background based on various business rules that we've integrated. So the concept of communications-enabled business processes is something that we've already done, and we were the first to market with that as well. So that's been very successful for us.
Okay. Is South Africa's internet sufficient for the purpose, or do you have some low bandwidth products as well?
Look, I think a key thing to understand in the local market is that I guess we're getting there. All right. I wouldn't say that we've arrived, but we're getting there. The deregulation of the marketplace means that there's many telcos providing all kinds of infrastructure, and they're pulling in fiber all over the place. So I think on the local backhaul, as well as the last miles, there could be still some issues, especially with Telkom owning the last mile, which means to get from the street into the premise, into the home, is still pretty much a problem with regards to Telkom owning that monopoly. As far as the international connectivity is concerned, I think we're getting there pretty fast. I mean, there's constant fiber cable being pulled in. I mean, the wax cable, which is going to be a massive capability for us, will provide massive amount of bandwidth to Africa. That cable is due to go live somewhere in May, which means, in my view, we should have more than enough bandwidth into international markets. So all that we literally need to do is to sort out the backhaul, the last mile, and actually start driving down prices. And for that, we rely on the local telco and service providers to get that going. So I think pretty much, talking around that, and also the fact that the wireless capability in the market is expanding quite quickly. I mean, we already have got many of the telcos starting to test and pilot 4G or LTE bandwidth capability, which means by default, you can pretty much now do multimedia communications and run small businesses on a wireless capability. I mean, things are there. Technology is also evolving quite quickly. So, the way that you manage voice and video, which is really the big challenge with regards to bandwidth, the way the technology manage packet loss and jitter and all kinds of quality around those links are improving dramatically. And today we see that we can literally, even on a basic 3G connectivity, wireless connectivity, be able to do voice and even video calls in the unified communication space. So I think, we are still lagging behind, but positive things are busy happening. We're starting to move into that space. And today you could pretty much run a fairly complete unified communication solution in our country as well. Understanding that, of course, in the unified communication space, there's a whole bunch of things from presence, instant messaging, video, voice capabilities. So it's a whole host of communications that's required in that environment.
Okay. Do you think traditional ways of communication will die out, or will it run parallel with IP communications as well?
Yeah, look, IP communications is definitely changing the ballgame. Specifically, if you start looking at what social media, social networking is starting to make, so it's changing the market space. But I think, whether we like it or not, the issue around voice and voice communication is still going to be the preferred communications method. We see that in the contact centers. If you start looking at the stats around media interactions between the customer and the business, voice is still at least 88 to 85% of the communications is via voice. What we are still starting to see is a migration away from traditional landline voice communications into this mobile cell phone world, and that's happening rapidly, specifically in South Africa. Right, so voice communications is there to stay. It's growing rapidly. It's moving into the mobile space. But we're also now starting to see with the advent of social media and social networking that the communications channels are shifting towards a social entity. So people are starting to use social sites and instant messaging and web collaboration to start communicating not only in their personal lives but also in the business environment. And what we're also starting to see is the fact that organizations need the requirement to actually position themselves to take cognizance of the social media interaction and be able to manage that capability. And of course, things like Skype is changing the game quite considerably. So we're starting to see things like Skype and video communications even moving into the home environment, where things like televisions now are internet enabled, social media capable, and even video communications such as Skype is capable on those devices. So things are changing. But voice is pretty much still there, but we need to be aware of the social and mobile component within that space.
Okay. How important is it for a business to implement IP communications, and how can interactive intelligence help them to make the switch?
Look, IP communications and the business value, for lack of a better word, for IP communications are primarily around cost savings. In the traditional world, and most organizations in South Africa are still running that way, they had the traditional voice space, voice network, voice engineers, a voice environment which they maintain, and they had a separate data network with all their data engineers and their data infrastructure. So they literally had to manage, duplicate the infrastructure in order to provide communication services to the marketplace. With IP, organizations now have the capability to merge all the multimedia interactions into one single platform and control it from that point of view. So it's there, it's adding value, and it's saving organizations a lot of costs. I think the key differentiator is, of course, understanding that IP communications will add different levels of business value to different organizations. So the more diverse and the more branches, for example, organization have, the more business benefits you would get from IP communications, because you can now transfer your voice communications into branch communications across that fixed data network using voice over IP capability. So you will get different business values, you will get better return on investment the bigger the organization and the more diverse and the more branches the organization would have. So there's different cost models, and companies must literally look at a strategy and understand, listen, do I just jump to IP communications? But they must clearly understand why are they doing it and understand the business benefits they could get from doing so going forward.
And interactive intelligence has solutions for everything.
Without a doubt. So, in most organizations or most solutions that we propose to organizations goes with, let's call it a consultative level or a solution selling level of interaction. In other words, understanding the customer's environment, understanding the business environment. For us, it's always saying we need to understand the customer's customer, because for us, it's helping that customer improve their level of customer service. So understanding how they interface with their customer, how they communicate internally as well as with their customers is always a key part before you start talking about solutions and how those solutions will add value to the organization itself.
Okay. What will be the next big leap in terms of online communications?
Look, social media, as we spoke about earlier, is changing the way that people do online communications. So we spoke about things like Skype and Facebook and things like that. But I think what we are now seeing is we've been talking about multimedia interaction into the organization as well as the contact center for quite some time. So organizations are still today in the contact center as well as now in the back office or business environment struggling with what we call interaction chaos. There's so many different channels that customers and even employees can use to communicate with each other or to the organization. And the biggest challenge they have is managing those multimedia interactions into the organization. Understanding that if the one person communicated via email, for example, and the next day that same customer calls via the voice channel, at least there's evidence of that email interaction, and the agent or the person taking the call can at least intelligently talk about interaction, and the customer, and is aware that the customer did communicate with them. So we're starting to see that in order for organizations to provide better customer services and to improve their communications levels, that they're starting to push a lot of that functionality and intelligence into the back office environment in order to be able to provide things like first call resolution. So I think, that kind of thing, on top of the fact that now we're starting to see social media entering the contact center and the business environment, means that, even though you're talking about the next wave of communications, I think we're struggling just to manage the existing ways of communications, okay? Not just voice, fax, email into the organization, but now with the multiple social media sites interfacing with the organization and being able to manage that and understand your customer and improve customer service is a big challenge. And it's going to take us a while to get or to be in a position where we really can take a grasp of all that and manage it properly to improve our customer service levels. But definitely by far, the next wave is all about social, it's all about internet, it's all about mobility with regards to mobile devices, touchpads and things like that. And that's all changing the way that people communicate both to organizations and within their personal lives.
Okay, yeah, because I was just about to ask, how important is social media in IP communications? And it seems like it's very important.
Yes, look, social media is IP communications. It's an inter-based communications level. It's there, it's existing, it's alive. And organizations must put themselves in a position to be able to monitor what their customers are saying about them and their products on the internet. You know, there's various tools available to do that. But they just need to make sure that they understand what's happening and be able to manage that social interaction with the customers in order to be able to provide improved customer service. And that's a big challenge for most organizations today.
What are the key challenges in implementing IP solutions?
You know, in most of the customers that we've had, we could see that I think the biggest thing is, first of all, when you move to IP communications, you need to make sure that you understand your strategic reasons for doing that. Okay, we briefly spoke about it. And understand, listen, what do you expect to get from IP communications? Understand the strategic value and the business value you expect to get from that. But in most cases, organizations start deploying IP communications without understanding that the quality of service, the end-to-end quality of service across the network, when you start doing multimedia communication across the network, is quite a key thing. All right? So a lot of organizations almost start putting voice on their data network without making sure that the end-to-end quality of service settings and capability within that network on their switches and routers are in place. And that causes a lot of challenges, and a lot of organizations burn their fingers that way. So I think the key thing is make sure what you're going to want to achieve, make sure that your network can handle that quality of service, and make sure that when you deploy quality of service capability, that you start selecting the right vendors and people with experience to actually assist you in that process going forward, especially when you start talking the next level of, let's call it unified communications, where it's not just voice and data, but you're now starting to talk things like instant messaging, presence capability, video, for lack of a better word. You know, the moment you start throwing all that multimedia interaction in the organization as well as to your customer, there's some serious impacts on the network or the infrastructure layer, which you must understand in order to prepare for that going forward.
Okay. Interactive Intelligence only recently opened in South Africa. What plans do they have for the long-term future?
It's important to understand that although we only opened an office in Jan 2012, that the Interactive Intelligence product set has been in South Africa for the last 10 years. I mean, we've had some great resellers or partners in South Africa taking the product to market, which means by default we've got a great customer base, we've got some excellent partners in the market selling the product set. So I think the viewers must understand that Interactive Intelligence is not new in South Africa and they're not new in Africa. What is new is the fact that we've now got a local office, a local presence, local skill, local expertise, which means our value proposition moves to the next level. Our strategy, of course, is on a global basis to expand our footprint globally. And on various occasions, you'll see press announcements around how Interactive Intelligence makes acquisitions in various countries and regions in order to expand our footprint. And that allows us primarily to provide a better service to a lot of our multinational customers. I mean, we've got a lot of multinational customers that's got multiple offices in different countries, which means we now, through a single interface, can provide a global service to those customers. We're also seeing that in South Africa, the strategy would be primarily to expand, not obviously in South Africa, but also to start focusing on specifically the sub-Saharan market, where we need to start pushing ourselves in north of the South African borders, which means we now start looking at using partners or channel partners to help us take that product to market. So our strategy for Africa is literally using South Africa as a springboard, I guess, moving into Africa. Right now, we've got no plans to expand our offices into the rest of Africa, but as the market grows, as through our partners we grow the market and we see the potential growing, we'd obviously revisit that strategy. So I think that's a key thing, growing our markets, growing our footprint, and of course our global strategy would be to look at things like expanding into specific vertical markets, like for insurance industry, you know, where through many of our acquisitions we acquired companies with product set software solutions that ideally fit on top of our core software layer and actually allows us to provide a better service to things like insurance or financial industry. So the verticals as well as expanding our footprint is quite a key thing for us going forward.
Okay. Any advice for companies who would like to switch over to IP communications?
Yeah, we sort of touched on some of those. Make sure that you understand why you're doing it. make sure that you understand the business value that you're going to be getting from it, and make sure that you invest in the right technology infrastructure to make sure when you deploy this on your network, it's working capable. And of course, make sure that you pick the right vendor technology partner to assist you in that process. IP communications is it's no longer just about voice on your data network. It's now about all kinds of fancy multimedia capability, including social media. And you need to understand the strategy and have a strategy in place to migrate yourself into that environment. And also understand that unified communications within the IP communication space consist of many building blocks, and a lot of those building blocks or components customers might already have in place. So it's not a question of throwing everything away, putting some new products in, and there you go. Understand your legacy environment, understand what you can use, understand what products you need to add on, and make sure that the integration capability of your legacy stuff and your new solutions based on your strategy going forward is there. Because if that integration don't work, you're going to have a challenge going forward.
Okay. Then lastly, Interactive Intelligence has won a number of awards.
Yes.
What do you ascribe the success to?
Well, I think the first thing for me would be strategy. There's definitely a strategy in place which we stuck to from 1994 with regards to having an all-in-one soft solution, open standard soft solution. That's worked great for us. Of course, having a strategy without anything to back that strategy is a big challenge. So we, on top of the strategy, have now got a great product set. Okay, it's a IP communication suite of products that position us to not only play in the contact center market, but also in the enterprise space. And now we're starting to move our solution into the IPA, or interaction process or business process automation side. So I think strategy, product, and service. Of course, service is the key thing. You know, for us, it's about having the skills, having the capability to support our product set, and of course, starting to expand that skills and capability on a global basis to provide our customers with a better service. That would be the key three things that I think is valuable.
All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Charlie, not a problem. Thank you for hearing me.